The first presentation is Stone or Rubble. Destroying Confederate monuments defaces the past. Please welcome Shane Sypher.
It was a warm August day in 2017 in Durham, North Carolina. Protesters converged upon the Confederate Soldiers Monument, seeking both its defacement and removal. Their motivation, a response to the Unite the Right white supremacist rally that had occurred in Charlottesville, Virginia, just days before, seeking the removal of the Robert E. Lee Monument. At this rally, racism abounded, harm was done to those involved, and fear was instilled into witnesses surrounding the incident. The local police arrived to witness the protesters who had successfully torn down the Confederate Soldiers Monument. A piece of America's past had been removed. The monument, forged from bronze, placed high above the ground on a stone pillar, centered between two lampposts, was now lying in the dirt. This incident shows the immense passion that Americans have for Confederate monuments, whether that be for or against them. The way in which many Americans approach this issue is reckless and ignorant of the consequences. It is understandable that many oppose these monuments as relics of racism, and the enthusiasm of white supremacists accentuates how their legacy is a complicated one. There are three solutions to the controversy. We leave them up, we destroy them, or something in between. However, the nuance of history challenges us to consider that difficult third option, namely, that there might be value in the history represented through these monuments, even as we oppose the evil associated with them. The best solution to the controversy is having the Confederate monuments remain standing in their original locations with modified descriptions because they are historically and educationally valuable. Confederate monuments are valuable, but the purpose of the organization they represent was evil. The lost cause narrative was established in response to how the Confederacy was viewed following the war. This narrative seeks to repair the reputation of the Confederacy, shifting the perception of it from evil to freedom-seeking. Sanford Levinson, professor of law at the University of Texas Law School, asserts that Confederate monuments are not simply memorials, but they were built to celebrate a fictional, sanitized Confederacy. This view of the Confederacy is a serious plague to society, wherein the legacy is preserved, but in the form of a falsehood. You may have been raised believing that the Confederacy fought for other reasons, such as states' rights, but their driving force was the preservation of slavery, which was an abhorrent institution. Nevertheless, even a clear and unfiltered view of the Confederacy cannot dissolve the enduring virtues of the men engaged in the most dreadful conflict in American history. And the monuments constructed to commemorate their lives serve as a focal point for critical discussion. So now I pose the question, what is good in remembering Confederate monuments in the public square? The way that a monument presents information is far different from other memorials. Confederate monuments specifically are connected to a painful past, but they draw our attention to critical ideas. Thomas J. Brown, professor at the University of South Carolina, declares that historical texts were written too often by pens that have been prejudiced, and the histories that endure and that speak without prejudice are written in granite and marble and bronze. The way that a tale is told through a monument is unique, freezing the tale and motivation in time. A historical text can be easily modified in comparison, leaving potential understanding vulnerable. Without the original meaning of the monument being displayed, we could not grasp their entire historical value. Essentially, a monument is worth 1,000 words that must be preserved. The historical record is fragile, and removing Confederate monuments threatens that very record. But their educational value is remarkable. Helen Andrews, senior editor at the American Conservative, argues that the Robert E. Lee Monument in Richmond, Virginia, was meant to stand for conciliation, not Southern intransigence. Society should be able to reflect on the actions and failures of General Lee. He should not be honored for his actions, but his memory should be recontextualized through the modification of the monument's description. By modifying the description of the monument, we can exemplify their monumental value. This monument specifically has no description, leaving the perfect opportunity for a historically accurate and honest description. When proposing an alternative solution to the issue of Confederate monuments, you may consider moving them to museums as the perfect solution. Museums might provide the proper environment for understanding to be had while removing the focus on the faults of the Confederacy. Bueller J. Clinton, associate professor in the Humanities Department of Dixie State University, argues that the historical significance of the monuments is better understood in museums than if they had been allowed to remain in their original locations. Clinton declares that moving the monuments to museums is the perfect solution to the controversy. While this may seem feasible, moving the monuments to museums has multiple problems. Holland Cotter, expert in American modernism, asserts that museums will have to relinquish their pretense of ideological neutrality. This is a large problem within academic circles, wherein heavy value is placed on objectivity. Museums will have to admit the evil of the Confederacy no longer being neutral institutions. Alongside this, John J. Winberry, associate professor of geography at the University of South Carolina, asserts that there are well over 600 Confederate monuments in the United States. Additionally, estimates of the total number of memorials arrives at approximately 1,400. The sheer number of Confederate memorials makes it unreasonable to store them in museums. This is precisely why modifying the descriptions of the monuments is the perfect solution. It recontextualizes them so that the truth is conveyed and they can remain locations of critical discussion. The larger issue of valuing American history as a whole is at hand. If protesters are willing to condemn and remove not only Confederate monuments, but other national monuments as well, what hope is there to retain any sort of physical memory of the past? Our nation is at its breaking point, dealing with social justice and censorship issues. Removing Confederate monuments will direct Americans toward a path of ignorance toward historical memorials. We love the nation that allows us to freely explore, learn, and discuss, so we must protect the monuments that formulate a large part of its foundation. Thank you.